Today's show is sponsored by the Electric Vehicle Association. Join up to support the electrification of transport today. And by Seacan Action Fund's electric vehicle raffle for the planet. Buy your ticket today to support their mission to fight for a cleaner air and healthier environment. And get 3 chances to win a brand new EV with every ticket. And by Energy Sage. Plan your energy independence and insulate yourself from rising energy costs. And by you. Stick around to find out how you can help us remain 100% independent. Welcome back to another episode of TEN Transport Evolved News. Thanks for joining me. I hope you are safe, well, and with someone you care about who also cares for you. We start today's show with a few updates from Rivian, which was in the news in multiple different ways this week. First, its CEO, RJ Scaringe, confirmed in a Reuters interview that Rivian is developing undisclosed new R2 variants, strongly hinting at both a pickup truck and an R2X performance model, saying, quote, "There are other variants of R2 which we haven't shown," end quote, while stopping short of an official announcement. With Rivian having separately confirmed its expanding planned initial production capacity at its upcoming Georgia production plant by 50% to 300,000 vehicles annually, these unannounced variants seem almost inevitable. At the same time, Rivian is in active discussions about manufacturing its own LiDAR for future autonomous functionality, is ramping its adventure network and service centers ahead of R2 deliveries, and as we learned this week from SEC filings, Volkswagen has now overtaken Amazon to become Rivian's largest shareholder. A few weeks after its official debut in Seoul, South Korea, Mercedes-Benz has published official pricing for its new electric C-Class in Europe. And given how popular the C-Class is with fleet companies, it's publishing business pricing alongside private pricing. For those unaware, in much of Europe, business customers don't pay sales tax on vehicles, something that can save fleet operators a sizable amount of cash. For the new electric C-Class, that translates to a starting price of €56,900 for businesses and €67,711 for private customers. The launch edition will be the C404matic, an all-wheel drive variant with 762 kilometers or 473 miles of WLTP range, an 800-volt battery pack and 360 kilowatts of all-wheel drive power. Like its larger sibling, the electric S-Class, the electric C-Class also offers rear-wheel steering, helping the executive sedan feel more nimble in tight streets and on twisty roads than its size might suggest. Rear-wheel drive variants are expected to follow. The electric C-Class will launch in other markets shortly, with further pricing to follow. This year has been full of reports of automakers cancelling electric vehicle programs, mostly in the US, and to be fair, we've got a fair few stories covering just that today. But for a change, here's a story going the opposite way. Porsche has confirmed that its ICE Macan will end production this summer, meaning the only new Macan you'll be able to buy for a short while will be its all-electric variant. Before you get overexcited, it's worth noting that the ICE Macan doesn't share a whole lot in common with the Macan EV, other than the name. The Macan EV is built on Porsche's PPE platform and is effectively a full generation newer than the outgoing ICE variant, which has already started to see reduced parts availability as it reaches the end of its planned life. It's also worth noting that Porsche has confirmed a new ICE and hybrid Macan are coming, due around 2028 and to be offered alongside the EV. In the meantime, though, some new old stock ICE Macans will remain available into 2027 in some markets, but for anyone buying new, electric will be their only option. I suspect many will be pleasantly surprised if they make the switch, and that could actually reduce demand for the ICE Macan come 2028. Earlier this year, Toyota unveiled its new Highlander, a 3-row electric SUV that will be built in the US for the North American market. It was followed shortly after by Subaru's take on the same platform, the Subaru Getaway. This week, Toyota's luxury marque Lexus unveiled its EV based on that same platform, the Lexus TZ. The more luxurious version of this new platform, the TZ, will be offered globally and come in a range of different trim levels with a 76.96 kilowatt-hour or 95.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack, depending on market. it promises a claimed 300-mile EPA range, or, if you prefer the WLTP range, 530 kilometres. All-wheel drive will be standard, as will seating for 6 at launch, and a full-length panoramic glass roof. With an emphasis on luxury, Lexus also says the front passenger and second-row seats will offer optional ventilation and power ottomans, while optional rear-wheel steering will give a more nimble driving feel than a standard vehicle that size. Pricing has yet to be announced, but it will go on sale as a 2027 model year, with other variants, including a possible 7-seat model, to follow. Lucid published its first quarter results this week, showing production volume of 5,500 vehicles, up 149% year over year, and deliveries of 3,093 vehicles. Alongside Q1 revenue of $282.5 million, up 20% year over year, and a $1 billion net loss, it confirmed some tough times lie ahead and withdrew its prior year-end guidance, blaming a host of different factors. At the forefront lies a reorganisation effort spurred by incoming CEO Silvio Napoli and his desire to conduct a company-wide strategic review. At the same time, a seatbelt anchor supply issue, namely a faulty part with incorrect and insufficient welds in the first quarter, halted Gravity deliveries for 29 days, and concerns over parts availability and supply chains have dampened the brand's optimism. Lucid's cost-cutting program is targeting savings of up to $500 million over the next few years, and we can expect fresh guidance after the strategic review concludes at the end of the second quarter. This year started with Honda making some pretty big promises about EVs, debuting various models at CES and committing to series production of the Sony Afeela brand through its partnership with Sony. Since then, we've seen a precipitous drop in enthusiasm, with the brand cancelling the Acura ZDX, pulling out of its Sony Afeela entirely, killing the brand before a single car was ever sold or made, and scrapping 3 future EV models for the US market. Now that cancellation streak has headed north to Canada, where Honda, according to the Nikkei, is cancelling its EV production plans in Ontario. Originally announced in 2024 and paused in May 2025, the Alliston, Ontario facility was meant to feature an EV production line, a battery plant, and a cathode production facility. Honda had promised to revisit the project in 2027, but it appears it doesn't want to wait that long. What took years to promise has taken literally months to dismantle. And I'm afraid the cancellations keep coming, with this time news from Nissan, which has officially cancelled all plans to build new EVs in the US at its Canton, Mississippi facility, shifting instead to a future that's heavily reliant on fossil fuels. Officially, the decision is part of a strategic review of the company's future EV plans, and Nissan now plans on importing its only US market EV, the Leaf, for customers to buy. Nissan previously cancelled the Aria in the US in preference for the Leaf, but importing Leafs from overseas won't do anything to help Nissan's increasingly diminishing presence in the marketplace, as import tariffs will put the effective price of Leafs made overseas up. At the same time, Nissan UK has announced it's closing a production line at its Sunderland production facility, where European market Leafs and ICE models are made. While it will continue to make the Leaf at the facility, the Leaf will be made alongside other Nissan models on the same single production line, which will ultimately lower production capacity across the board. On to a bit of a win now and a bit of a lose, courtesy of the ongoing battle between wind energy generators and the US administration. This week, the state of Massachusetts activated long-term contracts with Vineyard Wind, one of a number of wind farms that was recently allowed to complete construction after a judge ruled federal attempts to rescind their wind permits illegal. The contracts will help stabilise energy prices in the region and, according to estimates, save the state approximately $1.4 billion over the next 20 years. But it's not all good news, because in Washington, D.C., the American Clean Power Association and other groups have details of more than 165 new onshore wind farm projects in the US, worth more than 30 gigawatts of clean power capacity, that are being held up by the Trump administration. Sources told the Financial Times that the federal government and the Pentagon is now holding up the majority of approvals, cancelling planned meetings, and, if you'll allow me to paraphrase, basically behaving like that spoiled teenager who won't comply with a homeroom teacher's request to put their phone away. We've given Ford some quite rightly earned heat in recent months on this channel, as it's changed a lot of EV policies that at first glance seem to be pushing away from EVs back towards fossil fuels. And I can't lie, Ford recently absorbing its Model E into a different part of the company, one with a broader remit, certainly doesn't feel like forward EV progress. But this week, Ford reiterated its commitment to EVs by allowing a small group of select influencers and journalists to tour its secret skunkwork facilities in California, where the brand is preparing a new $30,000 electric pickup truck for market, along with other EV models designed on its new universal EV platform. As you might expect, no cameras were allowed, so all of the reports thus far have been text-based, and Ford was careful to closely guard its future plans. The purpose of the visit was pretty obvious. Ford wants people to know it's still working on EVs in a landscape where it cancelled not only one in-production vehicle, the F-150 Lightning, but multiple models that were due to enter production in the next few years. Ford says it's following customers in its rethinking of EVs and pushes back towards hybrid and ICE models. But as Electra's Jameson Dow noted in his write-up, the rest of the world is still moving towards electric. So yeah, it was a cool tour, but show me the finished product and let me drive it. Then we'll talk. And finally, some good news for the segment, and it's about the costs associated with getting behind the wheel of an EV. For a long time, EVs have, in many but not all markets, been attracting higher sticker prices than their ICE brethren. And while that's not been the case in Europe for some time, the US has still struggled with EV price parity, especially after the end of US federal tax credits. But this week, new lease deals from Subaru showed that for many models, if you want to lease a new Scooby, you'll pay more in effective lease payments to go gas than go electric. On paper, thanks to a new Subaru EV incentive being rolled out into the down payment, you can get a new Subaru EV on standard 36-month lease for between $62 and $107 a month less than a comparable gas Subaru. And of course, that's before you factor in things like fuel costs, which right now in 2026 at whatever it is a gallon right now is going to add up very quickly. So if you are a fan of the Subaru brand and you're looking to trade up, now's your chance. Our recall reminders are next, but first, a quick word from our friends at Cycan Action Fund, a fantastic organisation we're proud to be working alongside to give you the chance to drive off in a brand new electric vehicle, all while supporting an amazing non-profit fighting for a cleaner world. The electric vehicle raffle for the planet is back again with 3 EV winners. That means every ticket gives you 3 chances to win. The first prize winner will build their own luxury Rivian, Lucid or Porsche EV of up to $115,000 value. Second prize will choose between the Rivian R2, Volkswagen ID Buzz or a Hyundai Ioniq. And the third prize winner gets the Chevy Bolt. Only 10,000 tickets are being sold at just $200 each, and every ticket directly supports Cycan Action Fund's mission for a cleaner air and a healthier environment. They're working hard to make clean, affordable energy available for everyone. They even cover taxes and fees on prizes. Plus, with gas prices skyrocketing, it's never been a better time to go electric. So don't wait. Get a ticket today for your chance to say goodbye to gas for good. Head to evraffle.org and grab yours now. That's evraffle.org, or find the link in our show notes, or in fact, point your smart device at the on-screen QR code right now. Good luck. And now it's time for our recall reminders. As usual, full details are on our website. Tesla is recalling some Cybertruck vehicles to address potential wheel stud separation caused by cracked rotor stud holes. Owners will be notified and repairs carried out under warranty. And Stellantis is recalling over 20,000 Jeep Wagoneer S and Dodge Charger EVs to address a fault with the instrument panel display software that can result in a failure to display critical safety information. Those were our 2 recall reminders. Now it's time for our news shorts, and as usual, you'll find full links on our website at transportevolve.com. A change in regulations at the California DMV means that cops are now allowed to issue citations and penalties to autonomous vehicle companies whose vehicles violate traffic law. India and the EU have announced a massive joint initiative programme worth €15.2 million that will focus on establishing a joint pilot line for recycling EV battery packs. According to a new analysis from Bloomberg New Energy Finance, battery electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles helped displace 2.3 million barrels of oil per day in 2025, the largest to date in history. Mercedes-Benz has successfully ramped up production of its electric GLC at its facility in Bremen, Germany. It's being made alongside the ICE and hybrid EQE. Nissan has introduced a new model year for the Ariya SUV in markets where it's still sold. It includes a tweaked design to bring it closer in line with the Leaf, plus bidirectional charging as standard. The Spanish government has announced a new funding programme worth €100 million to help build up to 3,000 new EV charging stations along key routes throughout the country. The Mobility House has announced the launch of its Charge Pilot system as a standalone product for fleet operators who want to use smart grid technology to reduce charging costs and peak grid demands. Kia has officially reduced the pricing for the EV6 family across the board in the US. An entry-level Kia EV6 now starts from $37,900 before destination fees. The Electra Battery Materials Corporation has signed a binding investment agreement with the Canadian government that will see it receive up to $20 million Canadian to expand its battery-grade cobalt sulfate refinery. The Australian government has extended its electric car discount scheme, refocusing fringe benefit tax exemptions towards more affordable EVs from under $75,000 Australian dollars from April 2027. German company Tovian has just unveiled its new modular e-trailer system. It has its own battery pack and drivetrain, allowing for improved range for any towing vehicles. Dutch electric bus company eBusco is currently in talks to sell a majority stake in its core bus business, as an attempt to enable the company to survive through tough financial times. New data from the UK's SMMT shows that there are now more than 2 million registered EVs on the roads of the nation. There's been a significant improvement in sales in recent months. Zeekr has revised its Zeekr X crossover to improve its charging time. For the new 2026 model year, the rear-wheel drive variant gets Zeekr's golden battery, capable of charging at up to 230 kilowatts at 400 volts. Volkswagen is actively rejecting multiple reports from China saying that it's readying the sale of the Glasson manufacturer to BYD. Volkswagen denies the rumour and BYD declined to comment. BYD suffered a decline in EV sales during April. While the brand sold more new energy vehicles in April than it did in March, weakening demand in its home market of China is to blame for the drop in sales. Overseas sales, meanwhile, set new records for the brand. ABB e-Mobility has just launched a new massive charging system called the OM-X series. It's designed for megawatt-scale charging hubs at large fleet operators needing to charge more than 100 vehicles at a time. Rumours this week suggest that Geely is looking to acquire a portion of Ford's Valencia plant to enable it to make EVs for the European market, possibly even entering into a tech-sharing agreement. Ford has yet to confirm the rumours. Workhorse has secured a 100-vehicle order for its W56 electric step vans with Gateway Fleets, which will then deploy them across its electrified fleet depots in Southern California from July this year. Bosch has announced a new software update for its CX and CXR e-bike drive units. Popular on higher-end e-bikes, the new software boost can improve torque and support levels substantially. BYD has officially sold its most expensive EV to date, the Yangwang U9 Extreme, for nearly $3 million at the Beijing Auto Show. Limited to just 30 units globally, several examples have already found buyers. Automobile Bosch is claiming that Volkswagen is working on a new EV production technique internally codenamed Game Changer, aimed at dramatically reducing manufacturing time and costs at its Wolfsburg plant. The German Federal Ministry of Transport has committed €1 billion over 4 years to expanding heavy-duty charging infrastructure for both electric trucks at depots and publicly accessible charging points. A Porsche Taycan Turbo GT, fitted with the Weissach package and a Manthe kit, has set a new Nürburgring record for production electric executive cars, lapping the green hell in 6 minutes, 55.533 seconds. Norway's first fully driverless autonomous bus service is in operation after the Norwegian Public Roads Administration approved the Carson E-ATAC to operate on public roads without a safety driver for the first time in the country. Norway has also just set a new record in its latest monthly sales data, with an astonishing 98.6% of all vehicles purchased during April being all-electric. 98.6%! Following its acquisition last year, Juiced Bikes is back from the dead, and it's just launched 2 new models for off-road electric bike fans who want to carve it up. BYD is bringing its Flash charging standard, offering over 1 megawatts of charging for passenger cars, to Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand, with the first stations due to open later this year. Ford has reinstated its employee pricing EV deal in the US after April sales fell sharply, a slide not helped by the brand's ongoing retreat from EVs. Nivalis Energy and its newly acquired solar trailer company SolarEdge eMobility made their first joint appearance this week at ACT Expo, showcasing the combined potential of solar regenerative braking and grid charging for refrigerated trailers. BYD's new flagship electric SUV, the high-end Datang, is claiming 100,000 orders after its launch 2 weeks ago. I should note that figure doesn't include confirmed orders, only hand raisers. Its electric has secured a deal with Philadelphia that will see it install 1,000 new street-side charging stations throughout the city. 60% of Philly's households lack off-street parking. Electric truck charging specialist Greenlane has officially expanded its network of megawatt-capable charging stations into Texas. It now has sites in California, Arizona, Nevada, and Texas. A new study from Fraunhofer ISI says that the German auto industry is further through its transition to EVs than many in the industry have previously claimed. However, it also highlights ongoing divisions over the transition to electric. Roxys has unveiled its second-generation autonomous charging system, the S2. Designed for large fleet applications at ports and logistics hubs, it can autonomously plug in and charge heavy-duty trucks without any manual input. SNE Research has just published new data showing that the global EV battery market recorded a total of 244.6 gigawatt hours, a 9.1% year-over-year growth in Q1. CATL now accounts for 40.7% of all global EV battery sales. DAF has started official production of its XG Electric and XG Plus electric trucks. The new vehicles expand DAF's existing electric lineup, expanding suitability for EVs across its range. And finally, for the news shorts, Segway, a company better known for its electric scooters, has launched the Zaba 300. It's a fully-fledged electric dirt bike capable of producing 21 kilowatts of peak power with a top speed of over 60 miles per hour. No, it is not road legal. And those are your news shorts. There will be more next week. Our final 2 news stories are coming in a moment, but first a word on how we do what we do. Our channel has been around for 15 years, and we've always tried to focus on making good information free for all, not stuck behind paywalls, and certainly not driven by advertorials. And that means we rely on your donation to support us and keep us keeping on. 10 years ago, YouTube ad revenue paid our bills, but that's no longer the case as advertisers go elsewhere and YouTube sucks up more of our income on fees. So instead, we'd love to encourage you to consider supporting us from $1.50 a month on Patreon or a YouTube membership, or support us with a one-off Ko-fi donation, or visit our swag store. Or perhaps, if you're in the US, you consider using one of our long-time channel sponsors, Energy Sage. They're a great way to get trustworthy, verified solar experts helping you navigate the often complex process of getting solar panels for your home. I personally use them for my own home, and I can vouch for their awesomeness. And if you choose them, whether for solar panels, a heat pump, or just to join a local community solar program, which is perfect, by the way, for renters, we will also receive a small referral fee. Supporting us would really mean a lot, and you could be weaning yourself off big energy bills at the same time. As Borat would say, very nice. And now it's time for our final 2 stories. Electric motorcycles are great fun to ride. They often offer better acceleration than their power output might suggest, are simple to control, and increasingly quick to recharge. But one of the biggest criticisms of electric motorcycles, other than their limited range compared to a full tank of gas, is the lack of a clutch. At least it is for those who grew up learning the careful dance of balancing throttle and clutch, understanding the bite point and what it does to power delivery and torque. If you've ridden electric motorcycles for a while, you'll likely have forgotten that dance. But this week, we learned that Honda is patenting a simulated clutch mechanism for electric motorcycles. Illustrated on its CR Electric Proto Motocross concept, the system uses electronics rather than mechanics to replicate clutch behavior, and even includes haptic feedback to mimic the physical feel of clutch engagement. Primarily aimed at trials bikes, motocross and off-road riding where precise power delivery matters most, it could also make electric motorcycles more appealing to seasoned riders switching from combustion engines. I like the idea on paper, but I'd have to try it to know if I liked it in practice. And finally, when the antidote to fragile male... When the Tesla Cybertruck launched a few years ago, Tesla CEO Elon Musk made the confident claim that it could be used as a boat for short periods of time. Unfortunately, that claim turned out to be more of a hopeful dream, and there have been several well-documented cases of Cybertruck owners getting stranded in and having their trucks destroyed by water after taking said CEO claims seriously. Well, Tesla might have failed, but this week we learned that Chinese automaker Chery has done what Tesla could not, with its new Jetour G700 plug-in hybrid. Yes, it's a plug-in hybrid rather than a full EV, although its 31.4 kilowatt-hour LFP battery pack does a claimed 150-kilometre or 93-mile electric range. But it also just crossed the Minjiang River in China in 10 minutes without sinking, simply by floating on the surface. The specially built Arc Edition has its own built-in propellers for propulsion on water, and I'm sure this is partly a gimmick. But hey, I have had a week from hell, and I'm sure you have had too. And I needed a smile, so here we are. And on that note, we are done for today's show. But first, a massive thank you to the Electric Vehicle Association for sponsoring the show. The EVA has been around since 1967 and is firmly committed to a cleaner, greener future for everyone. Join the EVA today, become an EV educator, and find the way to accelerate your own transition to electric if you haven't yet made the switch. So head to myeva.org for more info. And thanks as well to the CCAN Action Fund. Tickets are just $200, only 10,000 are being sold, and each ticket gets you 3 chances to win a brand new EV, so don't hang about. Grab yours today at evraffle.org. And thanks as well go to Energy Sage. Follow the link below to start planning your own energy-independent future today. And of course, thank you. If you're able, please do consider supporting us using one of the usual methods I mentioned earlier in the show. Supporting us can also mean sharing our content, joining our Fluxer or Discord communities, promoting us on social media, or using our affiliate links, all of which you'll find in the show notes. And if you are new to the channel, please give us a sub, either on YouTube or PeerTube. Finally, you matter. You're important, and while you may not always feel it, your voice and actions matter to everyone. I know, right now, it's hard in a world filled with hate to feel like you have a place, but I want you to know you have one. The fact you're here watching this means a lot to me, and I am so very grateful that you are you. The world is scary. The news headlines are almost too much to bear at times, but remember that even the strongest people need time to reset and recuperate. Don't be afraid to speak your truth. Take your time and listen to your own heart. The world we can build together is much stronger when we all have a voice, when we all listen, and when everyone is welcome. A cleaner, greener, safer, smarter, and more equitable world must be rooted in fairness, justice, and a shared goal. So until next time, be your authentic self. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whoever you love, you are part of this wonderful journey we are all on together. As always, keep evolving.